This is a special place, all right. I remember coming to a place like this when I was a boy. My father taught us kids to fish in some of these same fishing holes. You know, of all the different kinds of vacations I've taken with my family, I think our camping trips have been the most memorable. Camping's such a great way to unwind, and it's a special opportunity to be with the kids. Their excitement as they explore the wonders of nature is downright contagious. Sometimes just my wife and I go camping and leave the little ones behind. Those trips are unforgettable too. So come join us as we show you how to make camping a fantastic experience that's fun, safe, and comfortable for everyone. Today you can choose to rough it if you want to, or you can take many of the comforts of home into the woods with you. The choice is yours. And you don't have to be a survival expert in order to have a safe experience. Modern camping equipment runs the gamut from the simple and efficient to the luxurious. And many public parks throughout North America provide established campsites with tent sites, tables, fireplaces with a cooking grate, and shower and toilet facilities nearby. These developments have made learning how to camp easier and more convenient than ever before. But if you're new to camping, you still may not be sure just what you need to get started, or how to make the most of your camping vacation. If so, this video is designed for you. Welcome to How to Enjoy Camping from Your Very First Trip. We recommend that you look through the entire program once. Then you can go back and focus on topics of particular interest. Plenty of titles will help you find the sections that are most useful to you as you scan through. We've divided the video into two main parts, built around the way people camp. The first covers family camping in established campgrounds. Then we've added a special section on wilderness camping. It's for those times you feel more adventuresome or want to be alone. It's also for those shorter trips from your base camp at the main campground into the backcountry. Of course, most of what we cover applies to both types of camping. First, we'll look at your home on a camping trip. Your tent. We'll cover features and types of tents. Sleeping bags and pads are next. Being organized on a camping trip is important, even though we're here to get away from it all. This includes what clothing to bring and how to pack it. We'll show you what to look for in selecting a great camp and tent site and setting it up properly. One of the great joys of camping is camp food when it's done right and easy. In the wilderness camping section, you'll get a crash course in building open fires. We'll show you how to properly make a latrine and dispose of water. We'll also prepare you for the possibility of storms. At the end of campground camping, we'll show you how to pack, unpack, and properly store your gear safely and for a long life. I've liked sleeping in tents ever since I was a kid. There's nothing like being dry and cozy in your sleeping bag as a light breeze on the roof of the tent lulls you to sleep. I love hearing the birds sing in the morning, too. Whether you're backpacking, biking, canoeing, or pointing your van down the highway for a week of car camping with your family at a state park, there are tents designed just for you. Backpacking and touring tents are perfectly usable for car camping. In fact, they often make a great second bedroom at the campsite. Using these tents in two ways is economical and gives you more privacy. Large family tents are designed for extended camping trips with larger groups. These tents are spacious, durable, and yet compact and easy to set up. And right in between are compact family tents, great for compact car owners and small families. Most of today's tents have a number of common design features. Some kind of frame made of lightweight aluminum or fiberglass gives the tent its shape. The poles on good tents are shock-corded. This speeds assembly and makes it easier to keep track of all the tent's parts. The tent itself is made of durable nylon. It has a waterproof floor, and the lower portion of the walls are also waterproof, but the roof is not. This allows moisture produced by sleeping campers to escape without forming condensation inside the tent. Of course, a waterproof roof is needed to keep out rain, so a second roof or rain fly is attached over the tent itself. There's open space between the tent roof and fly to permit the tent to breathe. It's important that the tent and fly fit snugly to the frame without touching each other to prevent flapping in the wind and to provide proper ventilation and moisture migration. The frames of most tents make them self-supporting, but you must stake them down anyway. They're so light that even a gentle breeze can send a tent rolling like a tumbleweed. Good tents often have unique and neat features. Be sure to read the directions that come with your tent to get the most out of it. You want a tent with doors and windows that provide good ventilation for hot summer nights. Also make sure that ventilation is possible even during severe rainstorms to prevent condensation buildup inside. Netting keeps bugs out of the tent while allowing the air to flow in. Even though there's a waterproof nylon door that keeps out the rain, remember it's important to have good ventilation at all times to avoid condensation within the tent. It should be possible to close the window covers from the inside of the tent. Check the zippers while you're at it. Good tents have big, strong zippers. Remember, your tent is there to keep you dry. Your clothing and sleeping bag will keep you warm. Fabric should be reinforced at likely stress points, and attachments for the frame and rainfly should be tough and firmly attached. The seams of the tent usually aren't completely waterproof when the tent is made, so you can expect to spend an hour or so applying seam sealer yourself. Most quality tents have seam sealer included. You should do so inside and outside the fly and along seams in the waterproof floor and lower walls. It's best to seam seal the tent at home before your first night camping out. To protect the floor of your tent from wear and tear, and to provide an extra layer of waterproofing, a separate plastic ground cloth cut to the same shape as the tent floor can be placed beneath the tent. Make sure it is cut slightly smaller than the tent floor. That way it won't protrude past the floor, allowing rain to run beneath the tent. Though tent fabric is flame retardant, be sure not to bring any combustible materials inside, and be very careful with matches and candles. Gas heaters, stoves, and lanterns should never be used in the tent, as unhealthy fumes can accumulate. Flashlights and a warm sleeping bag are definitely the preferred way to go. When packing up the tent, it's good to sweep out any debris to prevent unnecessary wear and abrasion of the fabric. You can also shake out the debris through the door. Then leave it on its side to dry the floor while you continue to pack up. If possible, the tent should be dry when packed up. Moisture on the fly can be shaken off and allowed to dry in the sun, up off the ground. If it must be packed wet, it's essential that you dry it out completely at your first opportunity. The frame and stakes are usually stored in their own bags. As you set up and take down your tent, be careful not to damage the tent walls by stepping on them. Roll your tent up toward the open door, pushing the air out. Your tent will take up less space that way. When all packed up, the tent fits neatly into its own stuff sack. Sleeping bags come in a variety of styles, sizes, and materials to suit different needs. As with selecting tents, you'll need to decide where and under what conditions you'll be camping. Sleeping bags are made to keep you warm in specific temperature ranges. Most are rated right on the tags to show the temperature they're designed for. There are very warm bags for winter camping in snow, bags for cool temperatures of spring, summer, and fall, and lightweight bags just for summer or warm climates. Materials include a nylon outer shell filled with insulating materials like goose or duck down or synthetics. To conserve materials and weight and enhance insulation, many warmer bags, called mummy bags, are tapered to fit the shape of your body, diminishing cold spots. Traditional bags are more rectangular. A hood with a drawstring cuts down further on heat loss. Well-made bags for cool or cold conditions are designed with baffled zippers to cut down on drafts. Some sleeping bags are made so that they can be zipped together in pairs. Sleeping bags can be conveniently stored in stuff sacks. Instead of rolling or folding the bag, you just stuff it in one handful at a time. When you're camping, bags should be hung out every day to air. A well-insulated sleeping bag alone isn't usually enough to ensure a great night's sleep. Your body weight compresses the bag's filler material, and so you need some kind of insulation between you and the ground. The cheapest alternative that does a good job of providing comfort and preventing heat loss into the ground is a simple foam pad. One thing to remember when choosing a pad is that open cell pads offer the best cushioning benefits, but they absorb moisture and transmit heat. If you want warmth, closed cell pads are the way to go. Though they're more expensive, self-inflating foam pads provide an extra measure of comfort and do an excellent job of insulation. The foam in these pads is open cell, but the outer shell is waterproof. They're inflated through a valve in the corner. After long storage, the self-inflating pads may need a little help for the last bit of air. You may be getting away from it all on a camping trip, but that's no reason to be haphazard and disorganized. The truth is, successful camping vacations call for thorough planning and organization, starting well beforehand. If you're going to bring your canoe, you may also want to remember to bring your fishing gear. Campgrounds offer a wide variety of activities that you'll want to be ready to enjoy. First, you need to figure out what you want to do, where you want to go, and how much time to spend there. Guidebooks and information from state and national parks will help you at this stage. Most campground guides provide detailed information about activities available there and nearby to help your planning. You also should check on the need to reserve campsites, anticipated weather conditions, and learn about any special restrictions or special equipment you should bring. Some natural areas are so popular that it's a good idea to make reservations well in advance. When you're ready to go, first make a list of everything that you'll need to bring. You'll want to save this list for future trips. It will evolve over time as you discover the items that become most important to you. Then, assemble all your gear in an open space where you can see it and decide how to pack it most efficiently. Taking time to do this thoughtfully now will pay off later when you need some odd bit of equipment and you know just where to look for it. In packing your clothing and personal gear, you'll want to be prepared for the full range of conditions you might encounter on your trip. Remember, your tent will provide shelter from wind and rain, but it's up to you to keep yourself warm. A raincoat or jacket is a must item. Rain pants are nice if you're going to hike. Remember to buy rain gear larger than normal so it will go over your other clothing. Other important items include sleeping bag and pad, toilet kit, flashlight, and batteries. A compass, matches, a folding knife. And in most areas, insect repellent, sunscreen, and sunglasses. If you're hiking, you'll want sturdy boots and a pair of light shoes kept dry for wearing around camp. Optional items include a camera and film, books, a pen and notebook. Clothes can be packed in a duffel bag or in stuff sacks. When dressing for the outdoors, dress in layers so you can take off clothing as the day warms or add it when it gets cold. While cotton may be okay around the house, it provides no real protection. It absorbs moisture and takes forever to dry. Wool retains its insulating properties even when wet. For long underwear, avoid cotton thermal underwear. The best fabric is polypropylene. It also carries off the body's moisture. We'll take a close look at cooking supplies and food later in the video. For now, we'll review essential group equipment you won't want to be without. First is the first aid kit. Though, if you're sensibly cautious, you will rarely need to use it. Your first aid kit should contain treatment for insect stings, sunburn, poison ivy, cuts, and scrapes. If you're going to be in the backcountry where help is distant, training on first aid is a good idea. Two common problems are sprained ankles and minor burns. For ankles, ice down and elevate before wrapping. For burns, cool with ice or cold water. Don't use oil or butter. Other items include tent, sleeping bags and pads, food, cook kit, serving kit, utensils, waterproofed matches, and appropriate containers, maps, cash and credit cards. Make sure you test and inspect your gear before you pack it up. Having the right equipment is only half the solution. You also have to know how to use it. Practice at home to be sure you know how to use everything you bring. When packing your car, whether starting out or at the top of each day, think about how and when you will need things. Put food, except for snacks, clothing, and other items you won't use until at the campsite, in first. Put the tent in last. You'll take it out first. When you get to the campsite, put the tent up first before you unload the car. This way, if it rains, you won't have gear scattered all over the ground with no place to go. Believe me, getting it right the first time is definitely the way to go. Choosing a place at your campsite to pitch your tent is a little like choosing a spot to build a house. The view is important, but you also want to consider practical things like drainage and protection from storms and high winds. If you're in a wooded area, you'll also want to pick a spot that's relatively free from bugs. To minimize environmental impact, use established sites if possible and avoid overused campsites. You want to be sure to find a good tent site that will ensure a comfortable night's rest no matter what the weather decides to do. Here are the things to look for. First, you want to find an area for your tent that's flat or only very gently graded. Too much of a slope will have you sliding downhill as you sleep. You also want it to be free of large rocks or exposed roots. Remove small rocks and sticks before setting up your tent. Avoid tent sites at the bottom of depressions or in a likely drainage path from higher ground nearby, as even the best tents can't keep out the streams of surface water that are produced by heavy rains. And the door of the tent should face downhill to prevent any surface water entering the tent. You don't want to pitch your tent beneath dead trees or trees with dead limbs that could blow down in a storm either. And avoid tent sites beneath especially tall trees, which are susceptible to being struck by lightning. You want enough shelter from prevailing winds that you won't be battered about by a storm. But if the area you're in is particularly buggy, you also don't want to be so sheltered that the entire campsite is hidden from breezes. A campsite with a sheltered area for the tent and a breezy area for cooking is ideal. Also, you'll need to have your tent far enough away from the cooking area to avoid the accumulation of odor in the tent that may attract animals. Use your judgment when pitching your tent. Try to have the door of your tent in a protected area that will prevent rain from blowing in every time you open the door. At least one large window should face into the wind for ventilation. Remember, good ventilation is always important, even during stormy weather. Most good tents are designed to provide good ventilation without leaking. As more and more people discover the joys of camping, it's important to remember that the natural areas you enjoy visiting exist in a delicate balance. They will remain healthy for future generations only if treated with respect. Once common practices like cutting branches, peeling bark, and digging drainage ditches are no longer acceptable or necessary. Your food depends on how you're camping. Car camping lets you carry large coolers and eat what you eat at home. Wilderness and canoe camping often relies more on naturally dried and preserved foods. Freeze-dried is more for backpacking and emergency rations. If you're camping from a base camp, you're not as concerned about weight. Naturally dried foods right from the supermarket shelf will save money, space, and weight. These include staples that can keep unrefrigerated like rice and noodles, plus things like sausages, nuts, dried fruit, and dry soup mixes. If you're camping from your car, you can pretty much eat what you eat at home. Only somehow it seems to taste better at a campsite. But you may need to plan your menu so that more perishable items are eaten first. Organization in the camp kitchen can save a lot of headaches when you arrive late and it's starting to rain. Before you leave home, Pre-measure quantities and mix ingredients where possible. Then pack them together in larger bags. Each bag can contain everything for one meal and be labeled, except commonly used things like spices, coffee, and tea, which can be stored in their own bag. Storing everything in plastic bags like this not only helps organization, but prevents moisture from getting into your dry food. It also eliminates a great deal of cardboard packaging, which also absorbs moisture, adds weight, and takes up space. Of course, if you're car camping, and if you have a good-sized cooler, you can bring whatever strikes your fancy. Block ice will keep food cold longer than cubed ice, though it isn't as good at cooling things down quickly. Commercial ice packs are also handy. Camping cookware is designed to be light and conveniently stored. Many cook kits are made with space for including plates in with the nesting pots and cups. Cooking and eating utensils are best stored in a separate bag. Camping stoves come in 1, 2, and 3 burner sizes. The smaller stoves can be made very light and compact for wilderness camping. The larger 2 and 3 burner stoves are intended for car camping. Both kinds of stoves can be used to do anything that a countertop range at home can do. These stoves operate on white gas, which should be treated with appropriate care. They need to be primed before lighting, but once started, they are very efficient. Models are now available which use unleaded gasoline. Propane stoves are more convenient. They work almost like a standard gas range. Just turn the burner on and light it. However, the large fuel cylinders take up more space than the fuel for a gas stove does. Dishes can be washed using water heated on the stove and a biodegradable soap, which is preferable to those used at home. Don't burn your waste. Many campsites provide garbage cans. Of course, there are other critters in the woods that might like to partake of your delicious trail cooking. Car campers can put their food inside the car and close all the windows. Scavengers like raccoons are very clever and persistent once they get a whiff of your food. Whatever you do, be sure not to take any food with you in your tent at night. Wild animals, which aren't likely to be a problem otherwise, won't be deterred by a wall of tent fabric if a tasty treat is waiting on the other side. There may come a time in your camping experience when you want something a little more adventuresome. Or maybe you just want to spend a few days away from your base camp at the campground. In this section, we'll cover some of the other camping skills you may need. Nothing like a campfire to bring people together at the end of the day. While fires are used less commonly than in former years, it's good to have fire building skills in case you should need them. If you're going to use an open fire, you're going to need some firewood. Usually it is provided or can be purchased from the camp operator. Check there first. If you must collect wood, look some distance from your campsite so you won't disturb the surrounding area. Look for pieces of dead wood already on the ground in a variety of sizes, from small twigs to large branches. Dry hardwood is often found suspended above the damp forest floor. To minimize the visual impact of your wood gathering, don't cut down any trees or saw dead limbs from live or standing trees. Always use the fire pit if it's provided at your campsite. Find your kindling and use your well-sharpened knife to get a series of thin shavings along one side. Next, build a little pile of very dry, small twigs on top, leaving plenty of airspace between them. Dry wood, ample airspace, and eventually a good bed of embers are the key to a well-made fire. Before you light your match, have a good-sized collection of medium and larger sticks nearby to quickly add to the fire once it gets going. Place your match directly under the kindling. Once the flames are well established, you can start adding larger sticks one at a time. Too much added too quickly at this point can smother the fire. When you're getting ready to leave the site, you need to be sure the fire is completely out. After an initial dousing, stir the sticks and embers and douse again. Stir the fire pit to be sure that there are no smoldering sticks or roots in the ground. Douse a third time. Checking the soil is very important, as roots can smolder for long periods below ground and then flare up when they finally reach the tree. Finally, remove any large sticks from the fire pit. Most established campsites have fresh running water, but even clear-looking water in wilderness settings can contain unhealthy biological organisms. A common one that causes problems for campers in many backcountry areas is called Giardia, which brings on prolonged and nasty flu-like symptoms. So all surface water should be treated before being used. Or you could bring your own water from home. Water filters can be quite effective in ridding water of biological contaminants if you get a high-quality one and keep it clean. Pre-filters are best used to prevent clogging. Treatment of water by iodine is another effective purification method, though one that noticeably alters the taste of the water. Boiling water is the third way to kill microorganisms. Most are killed within the first few minutes. To be certain of killing them all, the water should be boiled for at least 10 minutes. When nature calls and there isn't a restroom or an outhouse in sight, you want an easy way out that will leave the least impact on the environment. So find a secluded spot at least 200 feet from any open water and dig a hole about 2 to 4 inches deep. When you're finished, you should either burn your used toilet paper or carry it out with you in a sealed plastic bag. Then fill in the hole and you're on your way. Even with today's biodegradable soaps, which are definitely the products to use, you should lather up and rinse soap and shampoo onto the ground well away from open water. This allows the soaps to be absorbed into the soil and filtered before entering the water table. This applies to campgrounds as well as wilderness camping. A little rainstorm while you're camping is just part of the adventure, if you've thought ahead to prepare yourself. If you're on the trail hiking or canoeing and a storm hits, tarps are easy to set up quickly for emergency shelter. It's convenient to have tie lines already secured to grommets on the tarp, so all you have to do is string it up. Tarps are made of tough and durable polyester or nylon. Parachute cord or 1/4-inch polypropylene rope works well for tie lines. A taut line hitch is a good knot for securing the tie lines. The running end loops several times around the other line and then crosses farther up for a final loop. Make sure everything that needs to be kept dry is packed safely away. Additional lines from the peak of the tent to stakes also provide an extra measure of protection from any heavy winds. In really heavy winds, lines should be tied directly to the tent frame. If you're camping in bear country, you should pack up all your food in one waterproof pack, sealing it to reduce the smell, and string it up well above head level so that it's also unreachable from any tree. Before saying your final farewells to your favorite fishing holes and heading back to civilization, there are a few items to be taken care of. This is your chance to repay Mother Nature for the glorious experience she's provided by leaving the campsite cleaner than you found it. If there's any debris that has been left by former campers, be sure to pack it home along with your own bottles, cans, and other trash. Also, keep your eyes open for cans and twist ties for plastic bags and the bags themselves. In some of North America's most cherished wilderness areas, the blight of litter is a real problem. But it's one we all can have an impact on by doing our bit and then going one step further. It's been a great trip, and there's a good feeling in arriving home. It's tempting to just relax, especially if the drive was a long one. But there are a few things you should do first. First, make sure you completely unload your car. Clothing, tents, and sleeping bags can mildew if left over 24 hours without being aired and dried. It's best to let your sleeping bag air dry for at least 24 hours, and occasionally fluff it by hand. Don't store it inside the stuff sack for long periods of time. It's better to hang it or store it in a large, breathable storage sack, such as a pillowcase. If you want to clean your sleeping bag before storing it, make sure you read the manufacturer's instructions. Before storing your tent, make sure it's dry and free from loose dirt or debris. Store the tent loosely so it can breathe in a ventilated area. If you're going to store your tent in a waterproof bag, make sure it's dry. Storing it damp can give it a permanent bad odor from mold or mildew. Mildew can also destroy the water-repellent coating on nylon. When putting away camp stoves, make sure they are emptied of fuel. Store the fuel container outside of your home. It's always good to check the stove over thoroughly before putting it away. And always remember to test it out before you leave on your next trip. Now is also the time to fix any equipment that may be in need of repair so you won't forget before your next trip. This is also the time to see what you didn't use so you won't have to lug it along the next time. Well, that's it for this trip. I'm sure glad you could join us. I hope our family's little camping secrets will give you years of camping excitement and adventure, and that you'll always keep in mind, as we do, how precious our natural resources are. If you want to learn more about wilderness camping and backpacking, see our video entitled Backpacking Made Easy and Finding Your Way in the Wild, a complete guide to map and compass use.